Hi, everyone. Welcome to the September 2022 Academy Chat from the National Association of Academies of Science. Great to see everybody here. I'm Amanda Fuller. I'm the current president of the National Association. And today's topic is supporting junior academies of science. Glad to see everybody tuning in here from all over the country. And one of the reasons that we do this is for people to get to know each other, for you all get to connect across the different state academies. And so I think since we are a slightly larger group today, what I might do, instead of doing everybody go around, maybe if you don't mind, to do a little intro in the chat. Tell us who you are, where you're coming from, what your role is if you're with a state academy, and what got you here today. So I think that will save us a few minutes. I know we have some great things to talk about today, and I anticipate a really robust discussion. So I want to make sure we have plenty of time for that. I am recording, like I said, and you can find the recording at our website probably on Monday. So I want to thank Hallie Thompson and Rachel Owen are currently serving as our admin and for the National Association. They helped organize all of this, and I really appreciate all of the work that they are doing for us to help us bring programs to our academies of science. And thank you all for being here. So go ahead and write your introductions in the chat box. Our first presenter is going to be Philip Winchell, who is a longtime board member at the NAAS and also a veteran of many junior academy programs. Philip has bravely stepped in this year as our acting or interim junior academy director, and we're in good hands. So Philip, if you don't mind, give us a little background and update of what's going on. And you told me you wanted about 15 minutes.
That'll do it.
Perfect.
Then you'll throw me off. Get the hook.
And everybody else, I think you're muted. If you're not muted, let's do that.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Philip Winchell. If you don't know me, I'm the archivist of the NAAS, and also I am currently serving as the acting director of the American Junior Academy of Science. I have two announcements today that I think you'll find both very interesting. The first is concerning plans for the upcoming 2023 NAAS AJAS annual meeting. And the second is about the establishment of a scholarship fund to assist student delegates to attend this meeting. First item, please mark your calendars. I'm pleased to announce right now that the 2023 NAAS AJAS annual meeting will be held in Washington, D.C., March 1st through March 5th, 2023. This will be, as in past years, in conjunction with the AAAS annual meeting, which is going to also be in Washington, D.C. Importantly, our NAAS AJS annual meeting will be a hybrid event. There will be both in-person and virtual options for the student delegates and for the adults. We are already hard at work. Boy, are we ever. An annual meeting planning committee has already been established, and we've met twice. And I can assure you that planning is going on literally day and night. Who here got that 2 a.m. email from me the other morning? Let's first talk about cost. I don't need to remind anybody that Washington, D.C. is an expensive city for conventions. And we realize this. While safety of the event is always paramount, I want to assure each of you that reducing the cost and thus increasing the accessibility to participate in this event is driving virtually every planning decision that we are making. We are currently contracting for an appropriate block of luxury hotel rooms across the river in Crystal City, Virginia. These hotel rooms will cost us only $170 a night. This compares very favorably to the $295 per night if we join the AAAS block at the Washington Convention Center. Crystal City, as I'll also remind you, is the location of Washington Reagan National Airport, which is also an advantage for us. Our opening and closing ceremonies will also be at these Crystal City hotels. To further reduce cost, we're planning not to use any expensive charter buses for transportation. Instead, we're going to be using Washington's extensive metro rail system. We are arranging everything so as to have immediate access to a local DC metro rail station. That decision to use metro and not buses will save us about $25,000, and it's still going to provide just an embarrassment of opportunities when it comes to planning our events. The actual events for this annual meeting are generally going to resemble our in-person meetings of the past. We'll have posters that will be done beforehand, an opening ceremony, lab tours, the opportunity for attendance at many AAAS events, and the closing banquet. We are also, of course, because this is Washington, D.C., we're setting aside some significant time for the students and the chaperones to tour the city and to socialize with each other. Finally, I want to state just what is my personal commitment as the acting director, that whether a student delegate attends in person or virtually, that they're going to have a meaningful and interactive experience, and that everybody will receive the same AJAS fellowship. We're working on several efforts to assure that the virtual delegates will, of course, have a wonderful experience. And this includes some plans I have about a dedicated virtual delegate manager and also a virtual delegate host. Two individuals whose sole job will be to work together to facilitate the live streaming of events and to assure that the virtual attendees feel that they are every bit as a part of the annual meeting as those who are in person. I hope your academy is able to send both students and delegates and adults to our annual meeting. No matter how you attend, I believe this is going to be a very good meeting. My second announcement, and then we'll have some questions at the end if Amanda allows it. My second announcement is about the establishment of a scholarship fund to assist student delegates to attend the NAAS AJAS annual meeting. This scholarship opportunity is intended to be available for both in-person delegates and the virtual delegates. So on this new scholarship program, let me start with just a little background. The NAAS and the AJAS has received, or we expect to receive, monetary donations from several sources. During the August 12th, 2022 NAAS Board of Directors meeting, President Amanda Fuller here requested that a working group be assembled to determine an equitable method to distribute these monetary donations that we will receive. Well, I'm happy to report that Amanda's request was accomplished, and I'm here to share the results of this working group with all the member academies. So, on August 17th, 2022, a scholarship working group consisting of NAAS board members David Bass, Gary Foss, Michael Roche, Michael Strauss, and myself, Philip Winchell, met to decide an an equitable method to determine a way to distribute these donations to the NAAS and the AJAS. Rachel Owen facilitated this meeting, which was via Zoom, and Rachel, of course, also contributed valuable suggestions to our group. So thank you, Rachel. What followed right after that was a robust and wide-ranging discussion. And at the close of the meeting, we reached consensus on a plan concerning financial support for student participation in the AJAS meetings. And I'm going to describe this plan here. Now, first, and as always, individual member academies will choose the student delegates to attend NAAS AJAS annual meeting. We at the national level trust the states to send the best students. That is never in question. The intent of this NAAS AJAS scholarship program will be to provide financial support for students who have demonstrated the merit to attend AJS, but where financial limitations would otherwise prohibit their participation in the AJS meeting. So we endeavor to make this a needs-based scholarship. Second, each member academy will be informed that needs-based scholarship money is available for their AJAS students. That information campaign is starting right now, and the details will also appear soon in the newsletter and by emails that are going to be sent out to the member academies. So watch, more information is going to follow. Third, this is how the program is going to work. The NAAS will request that each interested academy send us an individual proposal for the use of their money, for the use of this money. The NAAS will then appoint an independent working group to evaluate the various proposals from the responding academies, and that working group will select the recipients, and recipients is going to be plural, who are going to receive this financial aid. Finally, once that process is accomplished, the selected academies will be given a sum of money to support their proposal. Now, I will say, to simplify the accounting process, some of these monies may, and I repeat, may be given to the member academies as a waiver of registration fees. But this will depend on each academy's individual proposal. We are going to recommend that the academies focus on the following criteria for financial assistance. And we stress that the list of criteria I'm about to give you, criteria is not in any particular order. And these encouraged criteria are going to include, first, students who attend a Title I school. Second, students who qualify for free or reduced lunch. Third, students who will be first-generation college students. Fourth, students who identify as historically underrepresented in STEM. Fifth, students who do not meet any of the above criteria, but who will self-identify a financial need. And sixth, any other innovative proposal. And I repeat that that list was not in any particular order. Finally, at the end of this process, the NAAS will endeavor to promote the sharing of these different strategies among the members through some kind of appropriate forum, such as another NAAS Academy chat. Now, importantly, we anticipate receiving more requests for funding than perhaps can be provided. Therefore, not all who apply for funding may receive the funding. And finally, we ask you to be alert for future announcements and details on this program. And with that being finished, I will take as many questions as Amanda will allow.
Thanks, Philip. Um, let's make some time here for questions so people can get some more information about our plans. And then I think what I'd like to do with the rest of the hour, or actually with the rest of our 90 minutes, is I do want to go around and ask folks to share a little bit about your own junior academy plans, your own setup, how you all are currently selecting students and what ideas you have. I'll actually put some prompts in the chat that we can use for the further discussion, but let's have time right now for questions for Philip.
This is Lynn Brandvold from New Mexico.
Yes, hello.
Hello. What's a Title I school?
Gary, perhaps you can give a more concise answer to that. My answer would be rambling.
A Title I school has been named because I think it's 30% of its students receive a
40%.
free or reduced lunch.
40%.
40%. So it's indicative of a school in a disadvantaged area.
How do you find that out?
It's public information on a Department of Education website, I believe. I don't have the link, but you can look up every school in the country and see if they're Title I or not.
Yes, I found that link after Gary told me about that. I found that link in just a couple minutes. It is on the Department of Education website, and it's by state and then by school district.
You could probably find it. Somebody could probably pop it in the chat as we're talking, actually.
It's important to note that because a student is from a Title I school, that doesn't necessarily make them, in a disadvantaged category, but it does mean that it's more likely.
I have a question, Philip. I mean, we have talked about this, every year. What's going to be the registration cost this year?
Well, I can give you a partial answer to that. I know what my budget is. My budget for the entire event is $88,500. That is what NAAS has to spend. Bear in mind that number does not include the hotel fees, which are paid by the individual. Although we have, as I mentioned earlier, managed to secure a very good cost at a block of hotel rooms. I can envision / sort of promise that registration fees for NAAS would never exceed $350. And that would be for the student participants. Last year, I've looked back at previous years. Last year, Kelly's number before we went all online was $350. Many students had paid that before such time that AAAS canceled, forcing us to cancel and then forcing us to reduce our registration fees to $250 for an all online program. And then we refunded, in many cases, we refunded the difference back to the students. So everything, like I said, everything is about cost saving when you're touring in Washington, D.C. I cannot imagine that number being greater than $350.
So, and then how much do you think you are going to raise for the fellowship? What I'm trying to see is, because since you want to be equitable, I'm wondering if instead of having fellowship, which seems to be involve a lot of time, right? So people have to submit things, and then you have to have a committee, and then you have to select students who will get the fellowship, is to use any fundraising to really decrease that registration?
The reason why we were at least making a suggestion that we use it to decrease registration fees is an equability issue, if that's a word, equality issue. The registration fee is the only fee that every student delegate would pay. So in theory, a student from anywhere in the country could be given a grant of $350 to waive registration fees, and then could attend the AJAS annual meeting at no cost if they did it virtually.
Okay.
As I've said before, cost savings is everything. The amount of money that we have in that scholarship program, I have numbers floating around in my head, but I'm going to rely on somebody else to actually come forward, if you're willing to, with some guesstimates on how much money might be involved in that scholarship program.
We are committing $30,000 from NAS's own budget to the scholarship program, which doesn't go very far once you start looking that, knowing that it costs some students $1,000, per head to come and participate. We are hoping that by investing that own money of our own, that will help persuade funders to match that and put money into it. So that's the gamble that we're making when we have put that up internally. I think based on what we have, but based on like the conversations I've had with funders, I think this is an appealing proposition. A lot of people really want to know that their dollars are going directly to help students and help participation. So I'm thinking this is going to be a really appealing way to raise money, and might, help us reach new funders that haven't supported us in the past, but would also appeal to the funders who haven't supported us. So we have one request out already for $50,000. But if you all know, people that we should be asking, like, please point us to where you think we should also be looking for sponsorships into that fund.
Lynn and Mandana, did I completely answer all your questions? Please come back.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Mandana?
Yes, no, that's fine, because in my case, I'm going to try to raise money to send our students so that I don't have to use the fellowship, mostly because, we can probably get, especially if the hotel is going to be low and plus, from Massachusetts, it's not going to be that expensive. I think we'll try to not dip into that thing. But at the same time, I do a lot of diversity things. So I'm hoping to get some of the students we work with who are definitely disadvantaged. So they fit all these things. They are on lunches, and then first generation college students and so on. So I think that will be a good thing. The other thing I wanted to ask you is, what's the plan for the breakfast? So is there going to be a breakfast?
Absolutely, there will be a breakfast with scientists. We are hoping to do that at Howard University.
Okay, so let me know if you need help. I know contact at Howard.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you. Contacts at Howard University and contacts at George Washington University are going to be critical for our success.
Okay. I think I can have both. In fact, one of our, maybe he's graduating from George Washington, but he was one of the AJS student, and so my guess.
Oh, wow,
is
an alumni.
George Washington.
And let me explain why those two particular academic institutions, in addition to the obvious fame and quality of the academic programs at both of those schools,
they're on the Metro.
They're on you. Who got that? Yep.
Maureen.
They are on the Metro.
I lived in DC for 15 years, so
okay. Well, then thank you. Well, then what we've already figured out. from Crystal City, we can jump on the metro and get up to Foggy Bottom and go to GWU. We can also jump on the metro and get right off at Howard. Howard has an even greater advantage because the national AAAS meeting is going to be held at the downtown DC Convention Center. Howard University is only one easy metro stop north of the DC Convention Center. And so, especially for the Breakfast with Scientists, it would be enormously advantageous for our students to be able to get to Howard, and also for the scientists who are already at AAAS to jump one metro stop north and also get to Howard. So Howard, a good contact at Howard for that Breakfast with Scientists and for the lab tours is just going to be critical to our success.
Right. So one issue I could see with Howard, so it's a HBCU.
Absolutely.
And I have seen how little, Black students we have at the AJS thing. So I'm not sure. I'll talk to the people I know. I know the chair of the department at one point, maybe the provost, to see. But so the one thing is because the NAS, students have never been very diverse. I wonder what kind of message that will send. And then I have also viewed their facilities, and I don't think it's necessarily going to be. So some of their engineerings are pretty good, but some of the other facilities are not that great. But I can definitely help you, gather a lot of faculty to meet with the students. So I can do that part. And then let me check both with George Washington and with Howard. But if both of them are willing, I don't know what the other people feel, but I think maybe George Washington might be a better venue because of the lack of diversity of our own students.
Thank you. Any comments?
Yeah, Philip, I think it might be useful to review or give a little insight into what the programs are that you're planning in terms of the tours and we're trying to cut the cost by 25%, but it'd be nice to assure everybody that the experience won't suffer.
Oh, heavens no, especially in DC, if you stick to the metro lines, you've got an embarrassment of riches. Howard, GWU, all the Smithsonian's, NIH is easily accessible to us. There's no shortage of good lab tours that we can go on in DC.
And we'll be attending the usual AAAS.
Yes, in my planning, and there's a vast 24-page planning document that if anybody wants to see it, it's on Google. Send me a separate email and I'll happily give you editing access to it. Gary, what was your question?
Well,
Wow.
I think you've covered it pretty well. And
no, but I was going somewhere. Oh, on the planning. Yes, there are plans to attend the AAAS annual meeting opening ceremonies and presidential address, the Friday evening plenary, and the Saturday evening plenary. So those three events, which will take place at the DC Convention Center, are scheduled and essentially, I hope to make required for our students. There's also time on Saturday morning that is being specifically set aside to attend a AAAS event. And Friday afternoon is also an open time that students would have the opportunity to attend any of the AAAS sessions at the convention center.
Philip, I'm glad you mentioned the planning because sounds like you already got a volunteer, but other people who are interested in being more involved in the planning of the DC meeting. Yeah, this is definitely a great reminder that people can jump in and help you make those good connections. If there are other questions for Philip, like we can take more questions about the meeting in March. Otherwise, I do want to make sure we have time to talk with all the state academies about what you all are doing and how this relates to your plans for participating in March.
And Noreen, thank you for that. That's a good question. Noreen asks about the Metro cards. Absolutely. We've already kind of got that budgeted in. For $28, we can get a 3-day unlimited Metro pass for our students that will allow them to move anywhere on the Metro anytime they want. That's budgeted for about $5,000. And it's going to save us about $30,000.
There's a lot of enthusiasm for that plan. So I'm glad Philip's already, thinking creatively about where to find savings in the event. So we're on a good track with that. One other question Noreen had earlier, actually, which we didn't address, was about what platform we're using for the virtual portion of the meeting.
Oh boy. Yeah.
I don't know that we want to get in all the weeds, but the short answer is we haven't decided yet.
Well, Amanda,
So,
there's kind of two different answers to that question. I anticipate that we will use Zoom for the main online portions of the meeting.
Phil, can I say something?
Yes.
So this is Noreen Noonan from Florida.
Yes.
Let me say that we have used for the past 2 years for the AJAS meeting our FJAS meeting and our FAS meeting, we have used Engages, which is a Zoom-based platform. I've sent the contact info to someone on your team. And we have been incredibly satisfied with it. We've had posters, orals, plenaries, business meeting, everything, there's a social lounge, a judge's lounge. You get a personal contact that engages, that works with you, a tech support team. You do have to have some tech support on your end, but you do have a tech support person through the entire meeting from Engages. We found their fee structure to be incredibly reasonable. And I've texted my virtual arrangements co-chair from 22 and ask her if she has a name of someone at Engages that you guys could talk to. It is a kind of a full service, what I'll call a full service meeting platform with an entry point and there's some back end stuff that needs to be done, like for registration and stuff like that. But we found it worked incredibly well. And we've used it for 2 years and been very, very happy with it.
What
So
about what?
Yes, it's way better than Project Board. Way.
Oh, okay.
Noreen, as a rough order of magnitude, what does it cost?
I think this past year it cost us, it's based to some extent on the number of people who actually come into the platform. So for us, for AJAS and FAS, I think it cost us $5,000.
Oh, for how many?
Couple of hundred.
1,200?
No, several hundred. I mean, like,
Okay.
I don't know I can get the details. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I
Well, our poster numbers that we're projecting are 180. About 100, we're guessing at 120 in-person students and about 60 virtual students.
Yeah. So do you have a budget for your virtual platform?
Currently, the budget for my virtual platform is $10,000.
It will easily fit within that budget.
Okay.
Well within.
Have you ever had any experience with a program called SeekBeak?
Nope.
Nope.
We had a committee a couple of years ago when we had to cancel our in-person meeting. We had a committee that looked very hard at several platforms, and this was the one that came out on top, and we've been incredibly well satisfied with it for 2 years.
How do you spell that?
ENGAGEZ, Engages.
Ah, okay,
It's engages.com, and I'll get the name of a person
okay.
to talk to, because you should really explore it. I mean, as an option, you should really explore it.
Okay,
And
we
I
will.
would encourage other academies who are looking at potentially hybrid or virtual meetings to take a look at this platform, because we were very well satisfied with it.
So that's a great segue actually to the second portion of the program, which is where we want to hear from all of you about what you're doing, what questions that you have, share some best practices around from the different states. And so maybe in addition to the 4 questions that I put in here earlier, maybe technology is another question. If you have something that you want to share about what you all are using for technology, let's add that to something that you might be able to share. Philip, you have a question? Or
Well,
did
I'm just going to say, but before you throw me off the stage here,
Oh no, I'm not throwing you off the
no,
stage.
I just wanted to make one comment that absolutely anybody is more than welcome to contact me and discuss these plans, please.
You want to
I'm
put your
open-minded on
email?
things,
You want to put your
and
email in the chat for people?
sure,
Awesome, thank you.
please contact me.
So, Noreen, since you kicked us off, is there anything else you want to share about Florida? Since you already started here, is there anything else you want to share relative to these 4 questions, or anything else as far as best practice from Florida?
All I'll say is, I think one of the challenges that we're having in Florida, well, we have many challenges, a lot, in K-12 especially. But for our FJAS, I think the biggest challenge we're facing right now is how do we get more schools involved in FJAS? We've had a conversation with our executive. Our FJAS essentially lives under the charter of our Florida Academy of Sciences, and we have a separate executive director for the Junior Academy. But I think one of her challenges has been how to get more schools engaged with this. Some of it is due to the way that schools schedule their classes, if they have block scheduling or don't have block scheduling, you know, scientific research, quote unquote, as a course for the middle and high schools is sometimes less, you know, there's less room for it in the curriculum, and it doesn't mesh well with the timing of the FJAS meeting, which for us is always at our meeting in March. So I think that's probably our biggest challenge right now, is how do we get more schools engaged? And if anybody has ideas about setting up like advisory committees, or, you know, how do you get teachers to buy into this? We're having a terrible problem in Florida right now because of the state legislature. Outside entities can no longer donate books to schools. Schools can no longer accept books of any kind. Most schools have pulled the plug on it completely because they're afraid of running afoul of the legislation that was passed to eliminate all kinds of things that students aren't supposed to learn about. So it's been very difficult. Not even dictionaries. The Rotary Club in Sarasota had to stop donating dictionaries to the schools in Sarasota County because there were words in there that might be hurtful. I'm not kidding. I am not kidding. So that, you know, getting into the schools has been more of an issue for us than it has been in the past. So any ideas would be welcome.
Thanks, Noreen. Anybody else want to start from your state and give us some of your, I think Gary, were you already prepared to share a little bit about what Washington is doing?
I am.
Great. You want to take it away?
I have a couple of slides that go with it, and it says
sure.
post-disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. Let me.
I have to leave at 4:15 if that's okay.
Okay, sounds like we'll follow up with you. Gary, go ahead and see if you can share your slides now.
Yes, I think so. Okay, can you all see that?
Yes, do you want to put it on
Yes.
slide show presentation mode?
Yeah. And to do that, I've got to move things around. My computer is kind of sluggish. I can't get it to work. How about
Okay,
I?
if people can see it, it's okay.
Okay. So Washington State is kind of an odd duck as far as state academies go. It was created fairly recently in 2005 by the Washington State Legislature. It was intended as a scientific advisory group for lawmakers. And so its membership is by invitation only. All members of national academies who reside in Washington are invited. And in addition, others selected in recognition of their scientific achievements. Okay, so, whoops. So in 2011, State Academy elected to send students to AJAS, and we needed an efficient way to identify our best student researchers. Because of the way the Academy is structured, we didn't really have the resources to start a new competition, just for AJAS, and didn't really see a need at the time for a state junior academy either. We just wanted to be able to pick some of our best high school scientists. So the obvious way to do that was to look at the state science fairs. We have about 6 state and regional science fairs. So initially, we looked at the ICEF finalists for the ICEF fairs. We also looked at JSHS, and there's a local biomedical competition in Washington State that we looked at. And between all of those, we asked about 18 students or so to submit applications for the American Junior Academy. And that included, each application included a research report, a personal essay, and a high school transcript. So for 5 or 6 years, that's how we selected. We went from 18 down to 2 or 3 or at most 4 students that we picked. And those got to go to AJAS as delegates. And so these were the students from 2011 on. In that first picture there, astronaut Bonnie Dunbar, she was the president of the Washington Academy at the time, and she was going to the AAAS meeting anyway. So she just took the 2 students with her. More recently, we had to find funding for the students and chaperones. And then this follows through 2019 when we sent 4. In 2020, when the AAAS AJAS meeting was in Seattle, we looked at the students who applied and we said, well, heck, let's just send them all, because we didn't have transportation costs. So those are all of the students that got to go. And now we're back to having to raise travel funds again. Now this process worked okay for 4 or 5 years, but what we noticed was it tended to select students from Washington's high-tech corridor that extends from Seattle on east through Bellevue and Redmond. You know, it's basically a Microsoft Amazon country. And we didn't think that was very equitable. So we looked for different ways to do that. And what we finally settled on, and we tweak it a little bit each year, but we now ask the fair directors of the 6 state and regional fairs to each nominate 2 students from their area. And we found that this gives us much better geographical diversity, and just happens because of geographics is related to you know, other things. We get more socioeconomic diversity that way too. In Washington State, we've always believed in the International Science Fair model that students should never have to pay for trip and registration to an event like this. So we've always funded 100% of the travel and registration. When we were sending just 2 or 3, that was because the funding was limited at the time, but we'd send as many as we could. The Academy got some state funding. Academy members would pass around the hat, and we'd get some from Boeing and Amazon and a few other corporate sources. This year we chose 10 students again, and we know it's going to be expensive to go to DC, but again, we want, you know, we think we've got 10 high quality choices, and we'd like them all to go. Plus we have more state funding this year. The state increased the Academy budget by quite a bit this year. So Donna tells me we're comfortable sending 10 students this year. So that's all I've got. Questions?
Thanks. Any questions for Gary?
Gary, Philip Winchell here. Would Washington State consider sending any of its students as virtual, or are you all one or all the other?
I want to say we're all one or the other, and in the future it will be all in person.
Okay.
And would we have a need for scholarship? I don't think so.
Any other questions for Gary? And then after that, we can do a little round robin with people. Okay, well, thanks for sharing that, Gary. It is a little bit of an unconventional model, so it is interesting to hear that. I know we have several other academies represented, and we have about 40 minutes left. So I would love to hear from each of you, you know, for 5 to 10 minutes if we have time, about what you're doing in your own academies. How do you find students? How do you, are you taking equity into account? What would be your need or plans for scholarship funding, things like that? So does anybody want to go next?
I could.
Great, thank you. Love to hear from you.
I'm the director of the Junior Academy of Science, and I have been for 20 years. So I'm very familiar with our setup. And the way we do it is in conjunction with the science fairs, the regional science fairs. We have a competition, which is two-part. Part of it is a written paper, 50%, and then 50% is a PowerPoint presentation. And you don't have to have a science fair project, but it just works well to hold our competition at the same time as the science fairs. And anyone who has, any student we have the junior division, you know, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, and then a high school division. And any student who has a science fair project, that's the only, not science fair, a science project. That's the only requirement in order to be part of the competition. And there's 6 regions. There were 6 regions. The past year, 2 of our regions have dropped out. We only have 4 regions now. But we've allowed students who have projects in those 2 regions that don't hold a science fair to compete in other regions. And then we take the top 2 top 2 winners in each region, in each division, so that's 4, come to the state science fair. And then there's another competition among those students to choose the top 4 places, both in junior and senior. And we offer the ability to attend the AJAS to the senior division winners, generally the top 4 winners. In past years, we have had grants that allowed travel. But currently we have a grant from Sandia National Laboratories, and they don't allow travel. We have not been able to send in-person students for a long time. Yeah, Philip?
Lynn, would they allow virtual?
Yes, they did. You know, there were, especially the first year that you went totally virtual. We had 2 students that we paid for their registration because we had that much money, and they really enjoyed the virtual part of it. They really enjoyed it, and they had breakout sessions, you know, with the different students, so they could talk to each other without anybody.
Well, and I know how that is a key aspect of that's the intangible of AJAS.
Yeah, and they really appreciated hearing from the other students and what they were doing. And our students heard about the science camps, you know, is it the New York Science Camp?
Well, there's a National Youth Science Camp.
Yeah, the one that's held in, I think, West Virginia.
West Virginia.
Every year,
Pocahontas, West Virginia.
3 weeks. And we send 2 students to that, and we have the funding for that. That probably comes from out of state.
Actually, ma'am, just for your own information, with National Youth Science Camp, they have an extraordinarily large endowment, and the way National Youth Science Camp is structured, NYSC pays every cent for every student.
Oh, wow. And they heard such good praise about that camp that they applied to attend, and they were chosen, and they were delighted with it. Delighted.
Well, please, Lynn, consider, if you can, sending as many students as you can to the virtual American Junior Academy of Science program.
Lynn, was the Sandia policy related to COVID? And if so, might it?
No,
No?
Okay.
before that
Okay.
it started.
Can
Okay.
I ask a question? How does your judging at the science fair, since you do this, you have a competition in conjunction with the science fair, how does the judging work? Do you have judges separate for the New Mexico Academy or Junior Academy, or?
Yes, we
Okay.
have a total of 3 judges for each division
Okay,
that judge both the written paper, and then they judge the PowerPoint presentation. And we hold that on a Friday night before the fair. The fair is
I see.
Saturday here at State. That's what I'm familiar with. on Saturday. That's a whole separate judging,
So it's a whole separate judging thing.
right?
Okay, interesting. Okay. Thank you.
Lynn, this is Paul Arbison. I'm in the Washington Academy of Sciences at Washington, D.C. In conjunction with Mike Cohen. He's here also. I wonder, do you have any outreach to the Navajo Technical College there?
This past couple years, the San Juan region, which is in Farmington and Aztec, where there's the San Juan Junior College. They have the science fair at the junior college, but this year we had about 7 or 8 students from the Navajo Preparatory High School that competed and did well. And they had a teacher who insisted that they all do science projects, and then he encouraged them to present it.
That's good. That's great.
So yes. And we've had homeschooled students, and you haven't mentioned those in terms of scholarships, but we've had very excellent homeschooled kids too.
Thank you for sharing all of that. That's great.
And so Lynn, is most of your money then coming from Sandia?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I can,
Academy and don't have, but we've started an endowment, so perhaps we can use money from the endowment for travel.
well,
But now I understand that airline fares have doubled from the past year. So,
Actually, they've come way down in the past 2 months.
oh, they have
Yeah, absolutely.
double.
They did, but they've come way down in the past 2 months.
Latest I heard here was they hadn't come down.
okay. But Lynn, I really look forward to seeing some New Mexico students coming virtually.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
for
very
your benefit and for anybody else's benefit, it is absolutely imperative for me that when a virtual student attends this AJAS meeting, they're going to come away feeling as though they were of equal value and importance to that meeting as anybody who was there in DC.
good, but
And if that's not the case, then I have failed.
well, no, so much of that is the tours that they're great.
We can do online tours.
Oh, do you plan on online
Oh, we sure do.
going through the Smithsonian?
Live interactive. Students can ask questions. The tour person running the tour will answer.
I took a group of students to the last one in DC, or maybe it's been there since but they had a great time. They had a great time.
Yeah, we are planning virtual interactive tours.
Oh, okay, good. That's good to know.
No, we have a couple other states here representing. Does anybody else want to share from your state how things are working or ideas that you have for funding and scholarships? I see Melanie just came on camera.
I can talk a little bit about what we're doing in Kentucky. We're making some kind of big changes this year as far as the Junior Academy and choosing those delegates. So traditionally, like a lot of us, we were having a spring meeting for the Junior Academy only. Starting this year in November, coming up soon, super exciting. We are rolling to our KAS meeting in with the Junior Academy. So we're going to have those middle school and high school students in the same space with our college students and faculty. They're going to do some things on their own separate, but for the most part, they're going to be mainlined into giving papers, listening to papers, going to other events. Traditionally, we have funded, and Amanda's gonna have to keep me straight here. We have sent 6 projects, the top 6 projects, and we had a tiered model of how we funded those based on how they placed. We are not going with a placing system this year. We're going with a ranking system. So we're going to get the top ranked projects. And I think we're still working through the details of how many projects and how much money that's going to be. But looking at how they are rated for the high school, not the middle school, we're not going to send them yet. They're not ready yet. I'm not ready to send them yet. But looking at those projects and the top ranked projects will be sending on to be the delegates for us. So it's big changes, but they're exciting changes. And I think it's going to benefit both sides of the organization, the junior academy and the academy as well.
I can add that we have, Kentucky Academy does have an endowment, so that does pay some of our operating costs of our organization from year to year. And so we have just had in our budget historically a $6,000 line to pay part of the cost of students to go to the AJAS, but we know that doesn't come close to covering the full cost of participation. So we're looking in state, we're looking for more sources of funds so that students don't have to pay out of pocket. And we haven't been told this, but I suspect that the costs have kept students from participating in the past who were eligible, who were named as delegates and then didn't end up participating and didn't tell us. But I think cost was maybe a reason why. So we're hoping we can address that internally and not have to dip into the scholarship funds, but we may also be looking at those funds.
Right, and we've also partnered with some other folks from other organizations within our area, and we want to make sure that students, just like I think was it Gary that mentioned, that all the students were coming from one area. We're experiencing a little bit of that as well. So we come up with kind of a plan to address that, and as our fall meeting moves around the state, partnering with the schools, and we have the public schools, and we have all those other things that are happening with science with the other schools to, picking them up as we go around the state, but also contacting them more purposefully to make sure that they do have the option to be included in this.
Actually, maybe, I don't know if you all emphasize this, Melanie, but the Junior Academy event is being opened up in such a way that students can come and participate in the event, like in our big annual meeting, which is now combined with the grown-ups, the grown-up annual meeting. Students can come even if they aren't presenting research. So the idea is we want to get a little bit more upstream, expose students to just the idea of doing research, expose teachers to the opportunity to connect with scientists and get students involved. We also recognize that we need to get students involved from more places, from more schools. And this is maybe a way to just start that exposure, start those lines of communication. Because a lot of schools are not doing research in the classroom, and we're looking for ways of, making those connections upstream to get them doing research at all. Lynn, you have a question? You have your hand up.
Yes, when you mentioned encouraging the teachers to encourage the students to do projects, next weekend here in Socorro at New Mexico Tech, the New Mexico Science Teachers Association is meeting, and another Academy member and myself are doing a PowerPoint presentation to the teachers on how to write a science paper, how to do a PowerPoint presentation to encourage the teachers to do this. The schools don't have, as far as I know, they don't have any class that teaches the kids how to write, how to do research, how to talk about it. So we're trying to encourage participation by doing that. I think we have 90 minutes to do a presentation. So that was all I had.
We're also connecting with our Science Teachers Association, and we're doing a workshop with them in November as well. Different topics sort of, but with the idea of helping students get involved in doing research with scientists. So yeah, there's the Science Teachers Associations are great resources for us to be connecting with as academies. Anybody else we have? DC, we have New Jersey, we have Nebraska, I think. We have Rose from St. Louis. So if any of you want to share anything about you're doing or response or reactions to our proposals or funding ideas, love to hear from any of you.
In Nebraska, we have 6 regional science fairs across the state. And each region selects 6 students to attend the state science fair. And at the state science fair, the judges choose between 8 to 10 students to attend AJAS. We pay for their registration and housing, and the students pay for the plane tickets. And we are funded by the Senior Academy and through donations. Any questions?
So the Academy, the Nebraska Academy pays for registration.
Registration and their hotel.
Okay,
And the students have to pay for their own plane tickets.
How many students do you typically send?
Oh, between 5 to 6 this year. Looks like we're going to be sending probably 10 students.
How many, please?
10
10. In person?
in person.
Okay.
I have a question for Philip. You kind of
Yes.
cut out a little ago. Did you tell us the cost of the Metro Rail?
Oh, here's how I have that budgeted. For $28, I can purchase a 3-day unlimited Metro Rail pass for every single participant. That, if you combine all that, that comes out to about $5,000, but that would come out of registration. The student wouldn't pay that directly.
Okay.
That would be part of the registration fee.
Okay, thank you.
I see Jean here from Idaho. Jean, do you send students to AJS? You've got mute off, but we can't hear you.
Hold up a number of fingers.
two.
Okay. Just
Dean, if your
curious.
microphone isn't working, feel free to write us a note in the chat too. People can read that. We can put it in the notes if your microphone isn't working for you. Okay. All right, we'll follow up. Thanks for joining us though. Good to
But
have you here.
we got this. So I take it if you're Roman, that means you're sending 5 students.
Wow.
Anyone else want to hear a little bit more from DC or from New Jersey or St. Louis?
I can talk briefly about New Jersey.
Great.
I was actually expecting the president of the academy to be joining us, but at this time, I guess that's not going to happen. So the Junior Academy of Science for New Jersey, they have their own competition, various science disciplines or categories. And following those presentations, the first and second place winners for each category, the New Jersey Academy of Science feels are worthy to represent New Jersey at the American Junior Academy of Science. What I'm excited about in terms of the funding support to allow more students to attend is that typically less than 20% of the students from New Jersey who meet that criteria, they qualify, they get nominated to participate in the American Junior Academy of Science. Less than 20% of them end up attending. There is no funding from the New Jersey Academy of Science to support travel or registration for those students. So we're kind of looking forward to putting together a proposal for AJAS to consider.
Mike, what mix of students would you send in person or virtual?
I think that depends on the school, Philip. And see, this is where I'm unsure of how the officers for New Jersey Academy of Science would want to make best use of that money. In terms of having students get the fellow status of American Junior Academy of Science, they might decide, hey, let's put all this money towards registration. And then we have a whole bunch of kids.
You mean online?
Yes, registration so that that's all they have to spend. But, you know, that's just one strategy. I'm not sure. I don't want to speak for those officers at this point.
Mike, where are the students coming from, or who are the students who are participating in the in that competition? Are they from certain schools that seem to participate a lot?
You know
or
what, my experience has been that there's this close-knit network of research teachers, science teachers that kind of specialize in research programs within the state. So like one of them I know is down from South Jersey in Ocean County. Another one is up more in Bergen County, closer to New York City. And one of the nice things is that that small network of research teachers is very willing to share everything they have with any new teacher that wants to try and get involved. My experience has been, though, that sometimes when we see new teachers attending like student research competitions, is they've got a full teaching schedule. They look at this phenomenal research that these kids have done that are presenting. And I think it just boggles their mind. And it's like, how could I possibly, I don't know how I could support that in my classroom. So that's just an observation that I've made here in New Jersey.
And you think this is research that's happening because of there being space for it in a classroom, and it's like built into the school curriculum?
In some instances it is, in most of them. In others, it's just a very dedicated teacher who is like, oh, I love to see my kids doing science.
I think high school science research is held back because so many teachers think that they have to be the mentors to all of the students. And that just, is something they can't conceive of. What they don't realize is that they can encourage the students to go out and get, expert mentors from each area. And it really takes, a lot of the burden off of teaching a research class.
Yeah, we have a partnership with one teacher who's piloted this with us, and I just sent him contact for 9 of our scientist members who volunteered to be mentors for his class, because he has them doing science fair project. I mean, not a lot of teachers are even doing science fair projects anymore in their classroom, but he is one who is. And we have members who have volunteered to help, like what you're saying, Gary, to help him so that he doesn't have to be the person answering the question, coaching them all through their experimental design, their data collection, all of that. And so that has been a really successful partnership. We'd like to build it. We'd like to get funding for it. But we think that's kind of a missing piece that Academy of Science can fill, because we are the scientists and we feel like there's some capacity there, to do that matchmaking.
At the Washington State Academy, we've kind of agreed informally that if students reach out for a mentor, we'll look at our membership list. You know, we've got 300 or 400 experts, and we know what their fields are, so we can match them up if they're willing.
How you've had a lot of students take advantage of that?
For the last couple of years, 6 or 8 each year.
Okay, that's great.
Hmm.
So the word is getting to the right place that they know they can ask.
Yep.
That's good.
Mike Roche, I've got a question for you. And this, I will extend this question out to anybody else and happily get answers from anybody. Mike, if you were saying that your academy may consider sending all of its students as virtual participants to AJAS, the first thing I would do is say, hey, that's great. I encourage that. The next question I would ask you is, for those students who are attending virtually, is it going to be considered onerous to live cast some of the events that we are doing live in DC at, say, maybe 2 o'clock in the afternoon? Live cast that back to the virtual students also at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at their schools? Or should we consider a scheme of trying to time shift events so that students would attend school during the week of AJAS, attend school during the day, and then participate in AJAS events at night? I will tell you my opinion on that before I get beaten down by everybody else on this. But for the students who are there in person, they have that in-person experience. And we are asking them to be in DC for 4 days in person all the time. Is it or is it not too much to ask the virtual students to be attending sessions during the day?
I think it would be difficult for them. The 2 o'clock time frame that you mentioned, at least the New Jersey schools I know of, their dismissals could be any time from, I don't know.
Okay, well,
2:15.
pick any time. Breakfast, a lab tour at 10 a.m.
I think it would be difficult for them to get excused from classes to go to, let's say, the library to view that. So whereas asynchronous things, I think that provides way more flexibility for them. But again, that's just my opinion.
Yes, and I would argue though that the asynchronous is not as personal.
Agreed.
Because it does
Agreed.
not it does not allow a student in New Jersey, even sitting there in their school library, to ask a question to the scientists live in their laboratory and get a live answer back.
Sure.
And so therefore that somehow diminishes the experience. And as I've said, I'm determined not to diminish that experience for the virtual students. This is just something that I'm struggling with in my own mind. I know Kelly last year wrote a really nice note to the school administrators explaining, hey, this is a national level science honor. Basically, it's worth giving your students an hour break to attend a lab tour. I mean, if it was a football event, they certainly would.
I think the bottom line is we just have to be flexible. Like we have to just meet students where they are and encourage as much as possible if they can, participate in real time. That's great. But I think, knowing that schedules vary and time zones vary and, students are busy with different things, like all we can do is strongly encourage and then offer the recording for anyone
Yeah,
who
but is it too much to ask for the fellowship to attend the events live? After all, we may have 120 students doing it full time in DC.
maybe this is a question that we throw out to all of the
Oh, it's going to get thrown out,
all
believe
the
me. But
junior academies.
I've
It's a
got
tough,
I've
it's a
got
tough
12
thing.
intelligent people right in front of me who all have
Yeah.
opinions on this. Anyone? Anyone? Please.
I just want to say that we are the Washington Academy of Sciences in DC, and for years I've thought about how can we help with your activities in DC, and we'd like to. That's why I'm here. I wanted to find out more about what are you doing and how can we connect so that we can serve your people, your students, when they come in here. There are some tours and things that could be done. Of course, the Smithsonian museums are fantastic for the kids to see also. So there's lots of opportunities, and we have very limited resources, time resources. It seems like in DC, everybody's very busy, and the retired folks are even more busy quite often. So I'm as the VP of the Junior Academy, I have been trying to run a science fairs, help with science fair judging. We organize one major science fair event, which is a magnet school in Montgomery County, Maryland, every year. And we don't send kids anywhere for travel, but we give them a trophy. I have a example of this is the nice flashy trophy that we give to the high school students, and has our logo and so forth. And it's quite often these kids say, hey, I didn't go out for athletics, so I didn't get any chance to get a trophy, but they get one trophy from us. So it does make an impact, even though it's a limited amount of things that we can really do to reward these students. We have the magnet school, of course, has some excellent students. Some of them are actually publishing papers in the physical journal and other journals before they even graduate from high school. So there's a lot of the students are going into things like the University of Maryland has the Joint Quantum Institute that's doing quantum computing research. So they get into some pretty advanced things, and it's pretty amazing to see that. Of course, NIH is here, a lot of other facilities. So we would love to be able to expand our connections and get more work to more ways to serve the other academies.
Sounds great.
Yeah, thank you, Paul. Their name, Mina, I believe.
Yeah, Mina is a Joe.
Yes, and Dr.
Judy
Judy.
Stavely was the other
Stavely.
person
Yes,
who joined
Judy
us the other
Stavely.
day.
Those,
Yep.
those two. I'm
DC.
in constant contact with them now,
Good. Okay, great.
and very happy to be in contact with them.
Good. Well, we have an all volunteer board, and we have limited budget. We get funding mostly through dues, and we focus supposedly on the 50-mile radius of DC, so it includes some suburbs, but we have limited time and resources to get engaged in a lot of activities. Anyway, we have an awards banquet every year in May that gives awards to a lot of the illustrious scientists from around the DC area. Quite often we've had Nobel Prize winners as awardees. We had Bill Phillips presented an award to one of his colleagues at the National Institute of Standards and Technology this last May, and he's been a supporter of us as well as some other well-known names. So we have the history over 100 years of activities, and we have a lot of great scientists, but we just have, in terms of fundraising, in terms of connection with schools, connection with other funding agencies, don't know, we don't have skills in how to do that.
Well, glad for all the connections, and I'm glad that we will be able to follow up with you all to work on the tours and all the funsies in DC. So
And,
thanks
and
for,
Paul,
thanks
I
for
hope we
jumping
can
in.
save you some travel costs in 2023.
Right.
Do our best. All right, well, we are about out of time, folks. I am so thankful for the great conversation today. I've learned a lot, and appreciate all of you tuning in. If you do want to get involved with more of the planning and want to stay in touch with Philip, do email him, as he mentioned, and we'll have this program posted on our website. We are trying to do the Academy chats every month or so. So I'm not sure when the next one will be scheduled, but if you have topics that you want to see us talk about with other academies, let us know what those are. And hope you'll have a great weekend. Thanks so much for joining us.
Bye-bye.